Today we're going to talk about scrapers and how to sharpen them. First, scrapers, when they cut, you should produce shavings like this, not dust. If you're producing dust when you're scraping, your scraper needs a sharpening. Second, scrapers come in different thicknesses. The thicker the scraper, the more wood it removes. So if you have a really tough job, you use your thicker scraper. If you're just prepping something to finish, you can get away with using your thinner one. The thinner ones cut very nicely, very cleanly, leave a very smooth surface. But again, they should create a shaving like that, not dust. If they're producing dust, they're dull. So now, how do you sharpen them? Well, it's very simple. The cutting edge on the scraper is a burr. So basically what you're doing is folding this edge over and creating sort of a hook that's doing your cutting for you. But what you first need to do is prep this edge so that you can create this burr. So now, I use water stones. They're a bit sloppy, but it's what I'm used to, so that's what we're going to use. Now, water stones need some prep, and this is a 1/4 inch piece of glass. This is wet dry sandpaper, and we'll squirt a little water on here. This is how you flatten your water stones, just like this. You want a nice flat surface on here when you're doing your scrapers so that you get a nice flat edge with them. Now, how do we sharpen them? You're going to take your scraper, and the first thing you're going to do is lay the burr down. If there's any burr at all left there, you want to lay it down. I don't care how dull it is, you need to lay that burr over. So you take a burnisher. This is a burnisher, hard steel burnisher that's actually made just for this purpose. They should be smooth. Mine has scratches in it, but we'll avoid the scratched areas. You want to use only the smooth bits. So we want to run this over this edge, and you want to press a little bit, because what you're actually trying to do is lay that burr down flat. Okay? And do all 4 edges. Next, this edge to about 1/8 of an inch back from the very edge, you need it to be shiny, no scratches, no glue, no residue, nothing like that. So you take your stone, put some water, and run it on there. Just a little bit. You don't need the whole thing to be nice, just where the cutting surface is. And again, you do all 4 edges. Now, if you had some deep marks in there, you need to probably use this coarser grade stone and then progress to a fine stone. But what you want to end up with is this shiny bit about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. When your scraper goes dull, you don't need to start from the beginning every time. You can get 3 or 4 sharpenings out of it by just laying down the burr and redrawing it with your burnisher. But we're going to start from the beginning. So you want to put your scraper in a vise. You want to take a file, just a standard file, nothing fancy. And you just want to create you're creating a burr with this. Basically, you're widening this edge a little bit so that it starts to hang over the side. You want to do it straight, and you want to do it so that you don't have any valleys and dips across the blade. You want it to be fairly straight. You can feel the dips and valleys if you push this lightly across. And if you have one, just give it a few strokes and then you're good to go. Now, in the end, you want this to be fairly smooth. You don't want to see any file marks in there if you can avoid it. So we did that side. Now we're going to do this side. And you want to hold this thing perpendicular. You don't want to be bending this like this. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, we're going to use the stone to polish that surface that we just created. And we're going to progress in the grits to make it smoother and smoother. This is a medium grit stone, and we're going to just pass it, again, perpendicular to the stone. You don't want to wobble this thing from side to side. And we're going to just do this until it starts to feel nice and smooth where there's hardly any resistance at all. Okay, now we'll progress to the fine stone. Same thing. And you can feel it. It starts to get easier to push. That means it's getting smoother and smoother. When it pretty much glides off the surface with no resistance, you're pretty much done. Now, before we draw the edge, we want to lay this one down again. Because it's folded over, it's flat across, we want to lay it down. And again, you can use some pressure when you're doing this. Okay, now we're ready to draw the edge. What you want to do is put this in a vise, have it sticking straight up and down, and we're going to draw the burnisher across here. We're not going to draw it perpendicular. We're going to cant this about 5 degrees or so to one side. So we cant it this way, we're sharpening this face. Cant it this way, we're sharpening this face. To do that, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to just flip it around the other side. Now when you draw this burr, only use the weight of the burnisher. Don't press. If you press, you make this edge very brittle. And with only a couple of uses, it'll fall off, and you'll have to sharpen it again. So if you're gentle with drawing the burr, you'll get more life out of your cutting edge. And again, we'll draw this side, and you can feel the resistance as you pull this across. And you want to just pull it across a few times until you don't feel any resistance. And this way. And you can hear it. It's really creating a nice burr there. Okay, and this last one. Okay, we're good to go. Now, we should be able to cut and make a really nice shaving with this. See, we're making shavings. We're not making dust. And you should be able to get shavings from all your edges. Now that's beautiful, and it's really thin. This takes off such a small amount of wood. Now, when it starts to get dull again, you don't need to go back to the beginning. You just lay it flat, use your burnisher to lay the burr down, and then stand it up in the vise and draw the burr again. You should be able to do that 3 or 4 times before you need to use the file and the stones and all that. Now I talked about the thickness of these. There's also a different type of scraper. These are scrapers that I had made from an old saw blade. Okay? They were fashioned after the Stanley scraper with the handles on it. That has a beveled edge. It doesn't have a square edge like these do. It has a beveled edge. It's sharpened exactly the same way. The difference is when you create the burr, you're going to create a bevel instead of a flat. So you're only going to get 1 cutting edge per edge, not 2 like you get on that one. So this, as you can see, has a little bevel at the edge. Now that bevel is important because if you have, say, two pieces of wood that are perpendicular like this, you can stick this scraper right up against this piece of wood, scrape right to it, create shavings, and you're good to go. With a flat scraper like this, in order to make it cut like this, you have to almost lay it flat. You can't use it that way. So this is very, very useful. I use these all the time in guitar making. You can clean braces up, glue and stuff with these, and they're very, very sharp, and they cut really, really well. And again, they create shavings. Now that you know something about scrapers, use them in your work. Chances are you'll find them really enjoyable. There's no noise, there's not a lot of dust, and they leave a really fine finish that only requires a couple of hits of sandpaper to get it ready to put a finish on it.